5 true scary stories that still haunt me. Chapter 1. Last Night. Last night, something happened that I still can't explain. A friend dragged me out of the house to catch the opening act at a local bar's music night. It was loud, crowded, the kind of place where people lose track of time. After a few drinks, I reached into my pocket. My phone was gone. At first, I thought I dropped it somewhere nearby, so I checked the table, the floor, the bar counter, then the bathrooms. Nothing. It was just gone. So I borrowed my friend's phone and called my number. It rang. Once, twice. Then someone answered, but they didn't say anything. Instead, I heard a low, raspy giggle, the kind that sends a chill through your spine. Then the call ended. I tried again and again. No answer. Eventually, I gave up. I assumed someone at the bar had taken it. So I went home. But when I walked into my room, my phone was sitting on my nightstand, exactly where I had left it. Chapter 2. The Bus Driver. When I was a kid, I was always the last one picked up by the school bus. Every morning, I'd wait alone at the stop. One morning, a bus pulled up, but something felt wrong immediately. There were no kids inside, just the driver. He smiled and opened the door. "Hop on," he said, but I didn't move. Instead, I asked him, "Where are the other kids?" He smiled again. "We'll pick them up," he said. "Just get on." Something about his voice made my stomach twist. I said no. He got a little more pushy. "Come on," he insisted, but I kept refusing. Finally, he shrugged, closed the door, and drove away. A few minutes later, the real school bus arrived. I didn't think much about it until that night when I mentioned it to my parents. Their reaction scared me. They started making phone calls immediately, and from the look on their faces, I knew something was very wrong. Chapter 3. The Lady Next Door. A few years ago, I rented an apartment from a friend. He had just renovated the place and was trying to sell it. Until then, I stayed there as a tenant. At first, everything seemed normal. But then I noticed my neighbor, the woman next door. She looked about 45, but somehow much older. And every night she stayed awake, listening to loud Christian radio shows and talking, not on the phone, just talking to someone who wasn't there. Eventually, it got so loud I couldn't sleep. So one night, I knocked on her door. She opened it slowly, and for a moment, I saw inside her apartment. The walls were covered in painted crosses, different colors, different sizes, words like Jesus and angels scribbled everywhere. The windows were painted black. No sunlight could enter. The carpet looked 50 years old, yellow, damp, covered in stains. There were cockroaches crawling across the floor, dog waste everywhere. But strangely, there was no dog. I politely asked her to lower the volume. She stared at me silently, then shut the door and turned the radio even louder. The next night, my girlfriend stayed over. In the middle of the night, I woke up. Something felt wrong. Then I saw it. A shadow, standing next to the bed, watching us sleep. At first, I thought I was hallucinating, but then the shadow spoke. It was my neighbor. She was holding something in her hand. She had broken into my apartment, and judging by how calmly she stood there, she may have been watching us for a long time. She leaned closer, then quietly said, "You should lock your doors at night." And then she walked out. The next morning, I heard strange noises outside my window. I looked down. It was her, speaking in tongues, holding a plastic bag. Inside the bag was a rotting, dead dog. The smell was unbearable. That's when I realized she wasn't just strange, she was dangerous. I asked another tenant about her. His face turned pale. Apparently, she had broken into his apartment too. He was watching TV with his kids when he went to grab a snack. When he returned, she was standing behind the couch, holding a power drill, just staring at him. And suddenly I understood what she had been holding over my bed that night. I called the police. They already knew about her. She was a violent schizophrenic who had stopped taking her medication. But because she owned the apartment, they couldn't remove her unless she left the building. So I waited. 2 days, barely sleeping. Eventually, at exactly 2 in the morning, she walked outside to buy cigarettes. I called the police. Within minutes, 3 police cars and a van arrived. They restrained her and drove away. Just like that, she was gone. I never saw her again. But sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night and imagine someone standing beside my bed, watching me sleep. Chapter 5. The Rock. One night I was finishing my shift at work. It was around 11:30 p.m. The office was in an industrial district. Every other building around me was closed, silent. Then, suddenly, crash! A rock exploded through the front window. I ran over to look. Someone had thrown it from outside. But when I looked out, there was no one there. I called security and decided to head home. I rushed to my car, jumped inside, and drove off. My heart was still racing. But halfway home, I realized a strange thing. I never unlocked the car. The door had already been unlocked. Slowly, I reached my hand into the back seat, expecting someone to be hiding there. But there was nothing. 30 minutes later, I decided to meet a friend for drinks, so I grabbed my bike and started riding. It was a quiet night. The moon was bright. Then I heard another bicycle behind me. The rider slowly passed me. As he did, he turned his head and smiled at me. The most insane smile I've ever seen. And that's when I noticed something. He wasn't riding his bike. He was riding my mom's bike. I sprinted home as fast as I could. When I got there, her bike was gone, and one of my car doors was open. The back left door, the one I never opened. Chapter 5. The Payphone. Once I worked the night shift at a campground, midnight to 8 a.m. Most nights were quiet, just me sitting in a tiny shack in the middle of darkness. During my first week, the previous worker told me something strange. There was a payphone outside, and every night at exactly 4:17 a.m., it rang once. Just once. He assumed it was some automated test call. He never answered it. For months I didn't hear it because I kept the windows closed. But one summer night I left the windows open. At exactly 4:17, the phone rang. The sound was strange, like the phone had been underwater. Eventually, curiosity got the best of me. I set an alarm for 4:15, then waited beside the phone. At 4:17, the phone rang. I answered. Silence. Just dead air, like someone was listening but refusing to speak. I said hello a few times, then hung up. This happened every night for a week, so eventually I stopped answering. Then one night in October, I tried again. The phone rang. I picked it up. Hello? Nothing. Then suddenly I heard someone inhale through clenched teeth. A rough voice spoke, a voice that sounded like gravel, and it said, my name, my full name, first, middle, and last. I had never heard that voice before. I hung up immediately. Then I dialed *69 to